What if I told you that the old dusty computer sitting in your garage is actually a secret treasure chest? It sounds crazy, right? But it's true. Inside that clunky old machine, there's real gold. Not a giant gold bar like in a pirate movie, but tiny amounts of it. Think of it like this. If you took a ton of old cell phones, you could find more gold in them than in a ton of gold ore dug from a mine. This isn't just a fun fact. It's a huge opportunity. We're surrounded by these little electronic treasure boxes, and most people just throw them away. But today we're going to dive into the science behind this hidden gold. So, where is this treasure hiding? You won't see shiny gold flakes just by opening up your computer case. The gold is microscopic, used in very specific places. It's often found on the circuit boards, those green plastic sheets with all the confusing lines and chips. It's on the pins of the CPU, the computer's brain. It's also on the connectors for your RAM sticks and other cards that plug into the motherboard. These tiny golden layers are super important for making your computer work. They're like the secret ingredient that keeps everything running smoothly and quickly, connecting all the different parts so they can talk to each other without any problems. You might be thinking, okay, Mark, but how much gold are we really talking about? It's a great question. A single old desktop computer might only have a fraction of a gram of gold inside. It's not enough to make you rich overnight, but think bigger. Every year, people throw away millions of tons of electronic waste or e-waste. All that gold, silver, and other precious metals are just going into landfills. It's like a massive modern-day treasure hunt where the treasure is being buried in the trash. The challenge isn't finding the gold, but figuring out how to get it out safely and efficiently. This whole idea turns recycling into an adventure. Instead of just seeing old electronics as junk, we can see them as a resource. It's a concept called urban mining. We're not digging in the ground. We're mining our cities for valuable materials hidden in the things we no longer use. This is super important because the Earth doesn't have an endless supply of gold. By recovering it from our old gadgets, we can reduce the need for destructive mining operations. So let's get ready to explore why this gold is there in the first place and how we might, very carefully, unlock it. So why do engineers put a precious metal like gold inside a computer? It's not to make it look fancy. The reason is all about science and performance. Gold is an amazing conductor of electricity. That means it lets electrical signals pass through it with very little resistance. In a computer, information zips around as tiny electrical pulses. Using gold ensures those signals travel fast and clean, without getting lost or scrambled. It's like having a super smooth, super fast highway for all the data inside your machine. This speed is critical for everything from loading a video game to just moving your mouse across the screen. Another superpower of gold is that it doesn't rust or corrode. Think about other metals like iron or even copper. Over time, they react with the air and moisture, getting crusty and worn down. This corrosion can block electrical signals and cause a device to fail. Gold, on the other hand, is extremely stable. It can sit there for decades and still look as shiny as the day it was applied. This makes it perfect for the tiny, delicate connection points inside a computer, like the pins on a processor. These parts need to work perfectly for years, and gold guarantees they will. Engineers could use other metals like copper or silver, which are also great conductors. In fact, silver is a slightly better conductor than gold. But silver tarnishes, which creates that layer of corrosion we want to avoid. Copper is much cheaper and it's used for most of the wiring. But for the most critical connection points, gold is the champion. It provides that perfect combination of high conductivity and incredible durability. It's a case of using the absolute best material for the most important job, even if it's more expensive. The reliability it provides is priceless, so to sum it up, gold is the VIP material in the world of electronics. It's the reason your computer can process information at lightning speed and why it doesn't just stop working after a couple of years. It's a tiny but mighty component. The amount used is just enough to do the job without making the computer ridiculously expensive. It's a perfect example of smart engineering, using a high-value material in a very small, very targeted way to get incredible results. And for us, it creates a fascinating opportunity for recycling. Alright, let's talk about how you would actually get this gold out. A big, giant disclaimer first. This is not a simple DIY project for your kitchen table. This process involves some seriously dangerous chemicals and should only be done by trained professionals in a controlled lab environment. But for the sake of science, let's break down the chemistry. The first step is to collect the gold-plated parts. This means taking apart the computer and carefully removing the CPU, RAM sticks, and other connector pins. You'd collect a big pile of these components because you need a lot to make it worthwhile. Once you have your pile of e-scrap, the real chemistry begins. The goal is to dissolve the other metals, like copper, nickel, and tin, while leaving the gold behind. One common method uses a mix of hydrochloric acid and hydrogen peroxide. This solution, sometimes called AP or acid peroxide, will eat away at the copper that the thin layer of gold is plated onto. As the copper dissolves, the super thin gold foils float off and settle at the bottom of the container. This process has to be done very slowly and carefully, and under a fume hood, because it releases some nasty fumes. After the acid has done its job, you're left with a sludgy mix of leftover metals and beautiful floating gold flakes. The next step is to filter everything out. You carefully pour the acid mixture through a special filter paper, which catches all the solids. Then you have to rinse the collected gunk with distilled water over and over again to wash away any remaining acid. What you're left with is a brown or black powder that doesn't look like gold at all yet. This powder is a mix of gold and other leftover bits. It's messy, but we're getting closer to the shiny stuff. The final step is to melt this powder down. To do this, you need a special crucible, a ceramic cup that can handle extreme heat, and a very hot torch or a furnace. As you heat the powder, the impurities burn away, and the tiny gold particles melt and clump together. As it cools, you're left with a small, solid bead of nearly pure gold. It's an amazing transformation, going from computer junk to a real, tangible piece of precious metal. But again, this is a dangerous process with acids and extreme heat. It's cool science, but definitely not something to try at home. Recovering gold from e-waste isn't just a cool science experiment. It's incredibly important for our planet. Traditional gold mining is one of the most destructive industries in the world. To get just a few grams of gold, mining companies have to move and process tons of rock and soil. This often involves using toxic chemicals like cyanide and mercury, which can leak into rivers and contaminate ecosystems for generations. It also creates giant scars on the landscape and releases a huge amount of carbon dioxide. It's a messy, dirty business with a big environmental price tag. Now, compare that to urban mining. As we talked about, there's more gold in a ton of old electronics than in a ton of ore from a mine. By recycling our gadgets, we can get the same valuable materials without blowing up mountains or poisoning rivers. This is a core idea of a circular economy, where we reuse and recycle materials instead of just using them once and throwing them away. Every gram of gold we recover from an old laptop is a gram of gold that doesn't need to be mined from the earth. It's a much smarter and cleaner way to get the resources we need. The numbers are pretty staggering. The United Nations reports that the world produces over 50 million tons of e-waste every single year. And right now, we only recycle about 20% of it properly. The rest is either dumped in landfills or shipped to developing countries, where it's often processed in unsafe ways. Inside that massive pile of trash is an estimated $60 billion worth of precious metals like gold, silver, and platinum. That's a huge economic loss, and an even bigger environmental disaster waiting to happen. We are literally throwing away a fortune. So what's the takeaway here? While it's fascinating to know that there's gold in your computer, the most important thing is to be responsible with your old tech. Don't just toss it in the bin. Look for certified e-waste recycling programs in your area. These facilities have the right equipment and expertise to safely recover valuable materials and dispose of the hazardous stuff properly. By doing this, you're not just cleaning out your closet, you're participating in a global effort to protect our planet, conserve precious resources, and build a more sustainable future. Now that's a real treasure.